This is my December daily for 2024. And this album was done a little bit differently than other albums. If you watch the other videos, I usually create daily pages or story pages based on the photos and what happened that day after things have happened. So I'm creating the album in January or maybe a couple of days after the events happen. I'm working on that page with the pictures in mind. This album was different in that I used the Evergreen Season bundle that the Air Group offered, and so I signed up for it through Simple Pleasures and was part of the classes and all that good stuff. And I used that whole collection, as well as some bits and bobs from the Christmas extravaganza from the year prior, as well as a few random things from my stash to create the album. And so as I was at those crops, I was creating all of my foundation pages for the entire album, and that was done before December had even started. Now, how you approach them is differently. What are the pros and cons? I'll do another video that goes through that, but keep in mind that this was created before the photos. And so, the setup and the creation of this album was very, very different. So not only did I create it ahead of time, not only did I use one specific product line, I also did an additional challenge of adding the Grinch. So I had decided before Air even introduced their bundle that this was going to be the year of the Grinch. And so Grinch has always been in my family. My mom loved it. I love the Grinch. I have a Grinch day on the 2nd of December every year. That was when my mom's birthday was. I had a lot of Grinch stuff that was in my stash, and I wanted to use it up, and I thought it would be fun. I bought this album because of the green for the Grinch. This is a Simple Stories album. Again, it has the nice pattern across the entire spread. Initially, when I saw this album, I actually didn't like it. However, once I decided on the Grinch theme, it really endeared itself to me. I do love the singing. I think it was the cream that really wasn't my jam, but really glad I picked this album. Absolutely love it now. Love the interior with the red. Green and red works so well with the Grinch simply because, he's wearing the Santa hat and he's green. So it also matched really well with the Evergreen Season. Very red, very green, lots of kind of gold, lots of trees. Super exciting. So here's my album. So the front page, I did something different this year. This is actually not from the bundle. It's from my stash. I loved the green and red plaid with the gold foil because I wanted to use these stars and this heart from Ellie Edwards. She does an advent calendar every year. I always look at the spoilers so I know what's in the calendar. I want to see whether or not I want to spend my money on it. I can see where people like the daily surprise and they can do something in their album with that daily item. I like knowing ahead of time. I want to know what I'm paying for. I saw this heart and I knew I had to get the advent calendar because of this heart, because I thought of this patch and it was my title page was ready to go. This is also stamped from Ellie Edwards. It is a wreath, and I did some stickles on here in green and red and gold so that I could cut out the middle. And if you look closely, hopefully you can see that. It is shaker bits that are snowflakes and green little binkies, red hearts, and a nice little Grinch face. So I wanted to create that. It's not perfect. The wreath doesn't line up perfectly. I could have used a circle in there to make it perfect, but it's handmade and wreaths aren't perfect and neither am I. So it doesn't match up perfectly, but I absolutely love that shaker, which goes through to the other side. I filled it really, really full because I wanted, lots of Grinch stuff in there. Normally I would probably not fill it as full, but I kind of like that. I used an old Grinch piece of paper for the backing to match my little card here. Used some Grinch stickers. I found a Jim Shore ornament at Hobby Lobby that had the year 2024 on it. Perfect for my year of the Grinch. And then again, because I set this up ahead of time, I left a spot for the ornament picture. I knew what size I wanted it to be. I sized it specifically because I knew what I wanted. And then a lot of the journaling and photos, once I got the photos in January, I came back in here, added the photos, and added the journaling that needed to be done. This year, like some of the other years, if you're watching other videos, I did include October and November. So my October was using a Rust to Revs 49 in Market. Again, I was using the Evergreen Season Bundle from 49 in Market. And so I wanted to go with the same type of look and feel. And so I used this gorgeous plaid paper. And the beautiful part of it is I used it fully, and then the chunk that I cut off I used here so that the plaid continues along the way, but the inside was the grid on the back of that paper. So just scored it, and that was that. I used some LE Studio items here that were Halloween. This is a picket fence stamp, and I stamped the hat and put it on. Love these little pumpkins. And then the pumpkin is also the flap here for the LE Studio cards that I put in here. And again, because I set it up ahead of time, the cards were here ready to go. I had all the little embellishments picked out. I temp tacked them where the photo was going to go so that when I lifted them up, if there's any residue, it didn't matter because the photo was going to cover it. I knew I needed a photo that would be cut in half to go, over top the crack here. And so the full-size chocolate bars, I always wanted to be that house with the full-size chocolate bars. And so I am. I do a tray every time, and so the kids can pick what they want. And so I put some of that in the journaling and stuff. Yeah, it's so much fun. Do I probably spend way more on candy than I should? Yeah, but I can sacrifice other things to have the absolute fun and joy of giving full-size chocolate bars. And then because it was the year of the Grinch, I had this Grinch hoodie bunny hug that had the Grinch face on it. And I got Donnie a little Max horn. So you can see his little grin. He was so excited to be Max and absolutely love that photo that Tom took. So again, everything was picked out. When I got my photos, I was able to put them in here, fill in my journaling, stick my stickers where I knew they were going to go, and ready to move on. Same thing with the November spread here. Did some mixed media here with some stencil butter and stencils. Hopefully you can see the little stars and dots there. And then, had all of the bundle, or not the bundle, the cluster ready to go so that I knew that I needed a photo with a little bit of space above our heads to put the clusters and the number, and then we were good to go. Again, made these. There's the Grinch right there. Picked out a lot of the extra little bits that I wanted on the photos and made sure that I had the spot for them when I was taking those photos. Used up a lot of the bundle, used up a lot of extras from Christmas Extravaganza. In some cases, I bought extra of it. I think most of us did. So it was a really good collection to match with some of the other stuff I already had. An LE Studio card. I love, love, love their stuff. If you've never heard of them and you want to talk about them, come see me. I love their stuff. It's just fantastic, and it's a really good price point. Our trees. So only 3 trees put up this year. My British one in my office, our family, childhood, travel one that's in our bedroom, and then our living room one that is Disney. So using a lot of the great little laser cuts and everything here. This photo, I always do a big photo of the living room tree, but I also needed it to be big because I got these Grinch cards, and there's 2 different cards. You'll see the other one later on. it's a nice little divider between this is October and November, and now we're getting into the actual December daily. So when I put this together, I had the card, I had the tabs, and I had a note that it was going to be the tree. Super easy to do the foundation pages ahead of time and then add things later. LE Studio also does a great calendar, and it has the year, and it actually has all the days printed. I love this font. I cut it down a little bit so I could put some of the beautiful evergreen season paper behind it. I filled out every single thing that we had on our agenda for the year. In another album, I actually used this to note something from every single day. Didn't do that this time, just went with what our plans were, some of the stuff we knew ahead of time. I'll talk about that in a planning video, planning ahead for December. But for instance, I knew that I was going to be in Atlanta for work that first week. And so that helped guide some of the foundation pages I made. Some clear stickers, another star, and then we're into December now. So, again, because I did the foundation pages, some of these photos, I knew what I needed to take ahead of time. So I knew I needed, 7 photos or 8 photos for Atlanta for day one, because I knew what was in the book. So that was kind of helpful that way, making sure that you get the photos that you want. For instance, I wanted to take a picture of myself in the rental car, and I knew that I had to be on the far side of the photo because I have this big Cindy Lou Who and December 2024, and I wanted to add a red word. So I knew how to compose that photo so that all of those elements would work, so that they weren't covering me up, or I needed to put multiple photos when I wanted just one big one. Okay. I flew in on a Sunday because I had meetings on Monday. And so Sunday was the last day that the Shakespeare Tavern had Hamlet. So not something that is a typical December day, but something that was the December for this year. So that was really kind of special and fun to have something unique that I don't normally do in December. And so, here's some random photos that was part of their marketing piece. This is part of their marketing piece. I wore my Hamlet shirt. I bought myself an ornament, and, my Cornish pasty that I always get there because it's amazing. This is a page from scrapbook.com that is a flip page. So they have either 3x4s in here or 4x6s, and then a flap of 3x4s. So I knew I was going to have quite a few photos, and so I automatically put this in because I wanted my number 1 to be here, and I usually have my phone set up and I have it set so that it will take some photos while I'm driving. Afterwards, I noticed that I had this great Grinch Pac-Man sticker, and it totally made me think of me on the highway or the freeway with the cars in front of me. So I added that there, and it just happened to work out. So sometimes you have those things. I added the ho 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 from the bundle to kind of tie it all in as well. So some things work out and some things you plan. The second, as I said, is always Grinch Day. It was my mom's birthday. This insert came with the album, and probably was supposed to be designed for like intentions, or going into December, what are your hopes and dreams, because it was nothing but lines to do journaling. I wanted to use the back side though on the 3rd, because 1, 2, 3. So I wanted to have 3 things for the 3rd, and so here I just printed a big photo of my mom. I actually took this picture when I was taking a film class. We were developing photos in a dark room, and so one of my favorite photos of her. So I added just some little bits. Again, I stuck them to the page, waited till I had my photo. Here, this was made ahead of time. I knew I was going to be there. I knew I was going to wear my little necklace that I just got, and I happened to get back to the hotel room from work, and Grinch was on the TV. So if that isn't the universe and the stars aligning, I don't know what is. But took the photo, making sure I had room at the bottom to put embellishments, or a Grinch head, or journaling or something. So I like leaving space for that, having some kind of dead space to add embellishments. So These pages in the albums are fantastic. Every album has different pages depending on what album you get. Here, I really liked the three little pieces of paper. They had a tab there, so I was able to stamp December in each one. And then the bundle came with these great little laser cuts that are clips. So I added those in, a photo of myself, some tags, and some little ornaments that are Grinch themed. All of my numbers are these little vellum numbers. The tiny attacher attached a lot of them so that there's no glue. They are loose. They could pull. I'm kind of careful with my stuff, so I'm not worried about it, but it's definitely something to consider. You could put, multiple ones there as well. I did use some stuff that I already had in my stash before I knew what I was going to do. I had used this die that I had, and there's several different words, and it's from Ellie Studio, like Mary, Falala, there's a couple of them. And so I had this Mary ready to go, so I wanted to use this as a tag, and I backed it with an Ellie Studio tag, stamped on it, did a rub on, added some chipboard, did some of my journaling. So this goes with the 4th. Nice thing about using a collection across the whole entire album is that your colors are going to match. So, greens and reds and all of that good stuff. So that was nice. This was another page that came in the album that had the 4 Polaroids. Again, used it for the 4th because of the 4. Had no idea what I was going to put into them. Something probably about the office. I did know that I was going to put these little tabs. There's a whole bunch that was in the collection. And so waited until I took pictures of the building and, Christmas items in the foyer. There's, me working, and then added that in. There's no journaling. It kind of stands for itself. That's why I added the tag over here so that the journaling can be here as opposed to having to fit it in underneath. Either would have worked. It's totally dependent on what you want to do. On the back of that, there was just the plaid stripe, which was very reminiscent of the cover. So I knew I wanted to do a big photo. I also knew that night I got tickets to see Christmas Carol. And so back to the Shakespeare Tavern I went. And as I was sitting there, I wanted to make sure that I took a photo. I actually took 2 or 3 of this scene to make sure that I got one that I really liked. And so filling in the dead space with some embellishments. And this is my table right here. Like, I was that close. Sometimes there are advantages to going to things alone because I got right up front and I actually got some very good photos with both shows. This was in the bundle, very old style, and I know Dickens was not in 1920. However, I just thought it was kind of cool to hold the number 5 there. And here, I made sure to have the little carolers on the paper because I was going to Christmas Carol. And it's interesting that, this girl right here actually looks like this one right here. So kind of cool that happened. I had taken a picture of the Cornish pasty earlier. I took a picture of the program there. I was okay with putting embellishments over the food. I already had a picture of it elsewhere. I always get the Cornish pasty. I always plan on trying something else. I never do. Creature of habit. There's the tree they had when you first came in, and then I made little flip-flops. So an ornament I bought. I used some Bah Humbug stuff that I had in my stash because Bah Humbug and Scrooge, Christmas Carol, I actually used those up, and now I'm good to go. And then I have this Grinch one that says Bah Humbug. So that was perfect, even though it covered it up. I absolutely love how that kind of came together. And then the Yule log and the display that they had for Christmas. So flip-flops are a good way to add extra photos. You could do collages. This could have been a collage as well, but I wanted just the one big photo to kind of show a lot of the details and elements. The 6th, I came home. Unfortunately, I was also supposed to go to our holiday party that night. I, however, picked up a cold from the people in Atlanta, and I felt rough in the morning, and I had, said so to Tom before I left. By the time I got home, I had congestion, and I was coughing and my nose was running and I felt terrible. And so he's like, you cannot go to your party. A, you don't want to make other people sick, but B, you literally look like death. So I stayed home. And so I had one photo again. The camera took that while I was driving. And then I did the journaling, and I had this sticker that said, that's it, I'm not going. Because the Grinch says that in the live action with Jim Carrey. And I thought that was kind of funny, because I was very perturbed that I couldn't go, but it ended up working out the best. And I needed another photo. We had saw this at Goodwill. It was a different day, but I put it here because it worked. Going home, being cozy, and then I was watching Christmas movies. And so I just put the Santa there. This page was in the album. I liked the wood grain and I liked the frame here. However, the backside I did not like. I think it had a gnome or something. Was not a fan. And so what I did is I used a 6x8 sheet of paper. I did some stitching. I used 3 doilies. I can't remember if it was Evergreen Season ones or Christmas Spectacular, but I layered them in here. Did all of my embellishments. Left this open. Did not adhere the Grinch head and did not adhere happiest. So that when I did my photos, I measured them. I knew how big they needed to be. When I took the photos, I was kind of thinking of, okay, this will overlap Donnie a little bit. It'll overlap the tree a bit. I made a mistake with this one because he's laying there sleeping. It should have been a little bit further, like his head should have been a little further that way. I spun it a little bit. It still works out all right with the Grinch head there. Happiest over top of him would have covered up too much. I'm okay with covering up part of the tree. It kind of is nice for the vertical and the horizontal anyway. But here, you can still see him and you can still see his face, so it works. Lots of little spots for journaling as well. And then I added extra stuff on, onto the photos if needed as I kind of put them in afterwards. So as I said, I knew I wanted this to be a big photo because of the big frame. There was the chipboard word ornament, and I had been eyeing up this Jim Adler Grinch. I'm usually not a fan of Jim Adler. However, I loved this Grinch with the Max, and he was at Costco. My brother had actually sent me a photo on Facebook and showed it to me. Could not find him. We went to I don't know how many Costco's, even when we went to Denver, and I couldn't find him. So I ordered him from online, put him in front of the tree, took a big picture, and then adjusted it when I got it. Again, making sure that he was over to the left a little bit so I had room for this embellishment cluster because I already knew that it was there. I also got a couple of little ornaments. So not only was it the story about this big ornament, but I had a few little small ornaments that I picked up. And I actually think I got them the year prior in the Christmas sales. And so I knew I would take photos of them in the tree. Picked the Grinch. This was a tag, actually. There was a hole in his hat there, but I covered it with an enamel dot because he had this nice little garland. So this was already ready to go for those photos. And it was nice because I could just make a list of here's all the photos I need. What do I still need? All that. So again, having it pre-planned was kind of nice. No idea what was going to be on this page. I made these kind of little clusters. This one said Santa. This came with the album, and so I wanted to keep those together because of its Dear Santa. And I added a little Grinch sticker here. Usually in my albums, I do a letter. So I do a letter to myself, or I have a prompt page that says Dear Santa. Sometimes I do Dear December. Kind of being able to talk about what you want out of the season that goes with this. So here I was talking about, peace and rest and patience and healing. We were sick. I came back. I made Tom sick. And so, just having a relaxing holiday season, which is something you can do if you have everything prepped ahead of time. And I usually have everything prepped and ready by Halloween so that November and December can just be fun days. And so that worked out really well for me. And it tied in with like this feeling of rest and peacefulness. there's Donnie hanging out on the couch. It's a Wonderful Life. Sure is for that dog. And then this made me laugh. Pizza Party in a Box. Just add the jingle. And then that tied in with this little embellishment here that says jingle on the way. So I added that there. Rest and peacefulness, getting a pizza, and then having a relaxing evening. On the back of that, it said, make it merry. I did add the little tab to it, but I left it as it is because I could have put a photo there, and I contemplated that. I could have put our Christmas card there instead of tucking it into this envelope. Decided not to do that. I left it, make it merry, making, because I make our cards. And so another piece that always comes in these albums are these great pockets. And I've used them for other things in the past, but in the last few years, I've used them to hold our cards. So in the movie with Jim Carrey, as he's throwing cards into the spots at the post office, he's going, jury duty, eviction notice, blackmail. And so I thought that was kind of cute to put there. I did this cluster here with this Santa tag. There's a little Dear Santa letter. There's little mailboxes. Made the cluster and then just stuck it onto the pocket here, which just had little strips of words on it. No images this year. It just had little strips of words. And then inside, I had an Ellie Studio card that said in the mail. So I could do my journaling here. Didn't need to, I could have put it here if I wanted to, but didn't need to because it's its own little card. It was the year of the Grinch. So here is our Grinch card with the ornament and the die. Merry Christmas in the Grinch font. A little stamp on in the inside and on the back from my Grinch stamp set that I got. Now, definitely not as many cards this year as some of the other years, but I did keep, these ones. A lot of people will print them out, like at Costco, or they send virtual cards. So I just screenshotted it and printed it out on a photo to put in here, just to keep them together. However you want to do it, feel free. But I thought that was a good smattering of cards. I think after COVID, people just aren't sending as many. So, it is what it is. So this big pocket on the back, I often put a big photo. I put a piece of the marketing on the back here to cover up some of those words. I wanted that to be the focus. I absolutely love that print. I wish they had done sheets that you could buy as opposed to it being the back of the marketing, but it is what it is. I liked the idea of the town and the house because I wanted a picture of our house here. I got these little gingerbread cards at the dollar spot at Target. And so what I did was I trimmed the back part of the card and glued it in behind the mat so that it would be a nice little flap for covering up the house. So here's a gingerbread house, and then here's our house. Home for the holidays. I stapled the 11 on there, put a little banner, and they had some blue pieces, which worked really well because our house is blue and our lights are blue at the top. Did this little cluster, left a little spot here for when I got the photo. Again, it was really easy. Stuck the photo in, put that on top, did my journaling, and then I was done. We got a ton of snow in December, and so I knew I was going to do one page about snow. I didn't want to do every single day that we had snow because that gets boring. And so I pulled out everything that, stunk. He's pushing over the snowman's head. He's being naughty. Put those in the little pieces, and then knew I was going to have a photo. When I got my photos, then I found this card that kind of matched, and they had the little embellishment of just slay it with a little sled there on the wishing baubles. And so, just layered it, did some journaling. The day is done. Okay. So does it have to be exactly what happens that day? No. It can be a conglomeration of a bunch of days. And so that's what it is. Completely love the snow, but also completely over it after a couple of days. So the journaling says that. So for the 13th and 14th, I knew that I was going to be at a Simple Pleasures crop. And so I had originally picked this configuration of pocket pages for the 13th, because I knew I was going to take pictures of the people. And so the 12th kind of just had to have stuff. And so that's where I decided it would be a snow page, which then helped determine the 11th being a big photo of the house and the 10th being the card day. So sometimes when you don't necessarily working from the 1st to the 31st, sometimes you're picking those days and kind of working around it, working forwards and backwards at the same time. Again, I'll do another video that kind of talks about that, but I specifically knew I wanted this page. It said Christmas gathering. There was something else here, like documented by. I hate that because I'm the only one documenting. And so I just covered up with a little banner. I wanted pictures of, the treats that we had. Terry made us these really cute little baskets, treats on the table that we all brought to share, people working and doing stuff. And then I wanted a picture of myself with my Grinch necklace and my Grinch bag in the background. Again, intentional photos based on what I wanted here. And then over here, I did get a set of stencils. And so I used my stencil butter and a couple of different colors here on the Grinch face to make this little flip flap. So this is a part of the marking piece. It's thicker and it's shiny feeling. And then what I did is I used a piece of cardstock, scored it, folded it in half to make a flap. And again, intentionally, I wanted the green here. I wanted the red to kind of match this. And also I knew that I wanted a group shot. So for those of you who were there and I'm like, let's do a group shot. And hey, Linda and Terry, hold the red and white poinsettias. And, let's do a group shot because I wanted it here. And the red and white poinsettias matched really well with this marketing piece. And I had this little thing that said party, and it was, the group was just awesome. We had a lot of fun that day. The little headdress things that we're all wearing, little headbands. Mine were the ones with the little reindeer. So I put a picture here. It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. Little tabby so you know to flip that up. And then a tabby over here so you know to flip it over. The 14th, I was still at the crop, but I wanted to do the music of the season. And we had a little pocket here as part of the ephemera. So stuck that down with red line tape. We wish you a Merry Christmas. Again, that's music. It's round like a vinyl. And so the 14th, I wanted it to be about the music. And so what I did was found images online of a record that said Merry Christmas. And then images of the different albums that I like to listen to in the holiday season. So the Muppets, I've listened to the Muppets ever since the album came out. I listen to it to this day. I will listen to it to the day I die. I love it. It's corny and ridiculous, but I absolutely love it. Michael Bublé has like a silky voice, so I like his music. Same thing with Josh Groban, great voice. Engelbert is a family classic, as is Living Strings, Living Voices. Elvis's Blue Christmas, as soon as I hear that song, it is go time for Christmas. I don't care if it randomly plays in December or if it randomly plays in October or September. It is full on Christmas in my mind and heart at that point. I can't just listen to it though. It has to randomly play. And why, I don't know, but that's just the way it is. Two Canadian artists I really love, Rock Voisine and Jan Arden. I love all of her stuff year round. And then, yes, he has a challenging history, Mr. Bing Crosby, but he is a sound of Christmas. Like you can't have Christmas music without Bing, whether that's White Christmas or just his record. Yeah, let's do it. And then my British artist that I love, Robbie Williams. I actually got this album when I was in London with my brother, and so has that extra special aspect of it. And then one from my childhood that was kind of a pulled together in the 60s, I believe. So, yeah. And then what I did is I printed them out, cut them with pink and main circle die, lined them all up, stuck them together, punched a hole, used some ribbon from one of the Grinch tags, and it fits right inside of there. Little bit of thickness there, but I thought it was a lot of fun. This came with the album too, just added some things from the bundle. added some stickers that were Grinch. And then again, this was a day I had no idea what it was going to be. I just wanted something big because I wanted the back side that came with the album. And it was our Christmas story. So I wanted that for our anniversary. Added in some marketing paper here. Didn't like what was on the other side, so wanted to use some of the paper. And this was a story about us being sick. So I think this was actually, the photo was taken earlier in the month, but it worked here, and so that's where I put it. I remember I was feeling so much better when I went to the crop, and I was thinking of canceling the crop, but I was feeling so much better, and I knew I didn't have COVID, and I was functioning, and everything was great, so I went to the crop, but I also overdid it by going to the 2-day crop, and so I also remember feeling absolutely dead on the Sunday. So it kind of worked out, even though the photo was from earlier in the month. So that's us being sick. 16th is our anniversary. We met on the 16th of December. We got married on the 16th of December. And so Christmas is always a very special time because of that. This is actually a flip. So had used these long pieces, made a flip with the card or some of the pattern paper. I knew I wanted a photo of us, and this is not from the 16th because we were both sick. This was actually later in the month, but we both felt good then, and so we took that photo then, and then we have a photo with Donnie, a little family shot inside, and then because we weren't feeling good, we actually just stayed home. So, here's the food we made ourselves, and Tom is collecting decanters. I got him a Stormtrooper one. I had this cool little sticker of 2 Grinches, which works with the 2 of us. We were kind of Grinchy because we were feeling rough, but again, using the marketing product, using more of the product, you're giving yourself a chance to add more photos, but all within one spread. So flip outs are nice that way. On the back of that, my friend, also Tanya, and her granddaughter Gracie. I had the pleasure of holding Gracie when she was like 2 days old. And so, very attached to that little girl. And I knew that I wanted to do something with her. She's always in my album. We have a standing date night every week where we have a chat. And I knew I wanted this page to be her and Gracie because the sticker was Grinch with Cindy Lou. And so I asked her to send me pictures. And so she forwarded a picture that her son sent her. And then she sent me a picture of her and her puppy. And I was able to put them in here. And I told her exactly what I wanted. And so, I need a picture of you and Barlow together. I need a picture of Gracie. Whether that's in her outfit or doing whatever, it just happened that they also were facing the right direction for me. So, again, intentional. Another stencil, and it worked with his little smirky face here. Naughty, who me? So I did that strip, and I knew I had to do something about Donnie because I also had this sticker that said definitely naughty. A Max tag, did the cluster, had it ready to go, and I did some flips here. So I could have, a picture of him. Oh, and it's the same photo as before. I didn't realize that. Doesn't matter. It's still cute. And then here he is laying on the couch, and I put a blanket on him, and he's looking back at me like he always does when he's perturbed with me. And then we found this shirt that says "Merry Christmas, you filthy animal," which is a quote from Home Alone. And so he will wear things, and he gets hot, but he wore this and was peeking back at me like, just take the picture already, lady. So I had to include him there. So and it's specifically on the 18th because that was when we had adopted him the year prior. 19th, again, had no idea what I was doing here. I was just going to do something random about documenting December. Because the 4x4s were there, I used an LA Studio die that makes the nice little openings here. And I knew I wanted to put the 19 here and the Grinch and the banner. But we actually ended up going to Denver that day, so I printed out some little photos when we were shopping for Rudolph stuff for one of my friends in Canada. I ran across some Kath Kidston. She's a home decor purses designer based out of London. And so I have a few of her things, and here's the little guards and the corgis, and I was so excited to get these pillowcases. Kath Kidston, I love so much of her stuff. Not the florally stuff, but some of the specific British stuff. I absolutely love it. The 20th and 21st, again, had no idea what I was going to do here. I wanted to use this die though, because the Grinch faces fit in the circles. And I also had a stamp that is a journaling block that fits in the circle. I knew I was going to add the number on somewhere. So I just had these. I put them in a 6x8 page protector. I waited until December and then picked something. So here, Donnie and Tom were just, fighting, and then he flipped over and just gave Tom this great big smile. Tom is definitely his human, and so I love the bond that they have, and so this little Grinch face worked really well, both with his face and the feelings of love that I have about their bond, which is in the journaling. And then there's kind of unhappy face and best surprise. So we were in traffic, and this car pulls up, and it's covered in lights. I'm like, that is so cool. I'm like, why don't we have a vehicle covered in lights? Which goes with the Grinch face. And so that was the page. Not a super great photo, not a huge life-changing story, but kind of a documentation of December, which is what this is supposed to be. So some pages don't take very long. Some pages do. So the 22nd was a labor-intensive page. I had seen a page that Ellie Edwards did in her 8x10 album where she had 3 stockings, and she kind of sewed them together to be a basis of a page to put stuff on. And I think it was in her December daily prep class. You pay $5 and they share all these ideas throughout an entire Saturday. Well, it didn't fit in the 6x8 album, right? It fit in the 8x10. So what I did is I had this die set, and so I cut 2 big stockings for myself and Tom, and I was going to layer them, and then I'm like, oh, I have to do a small one for Donnie. So I cut a small one. Now, I cut the front and back out of papers because I wanted these to be pockets. So I stitched around the perimeter of each, stuck on the glitter paper topping of each stocking. Then I came in and I put my stocking as far to the binding as I could go, and Tom's with his toe to the outer edge. Okay. Kind of tack them in place. Fit Donnie's in the middle, because he's always in the middle, whether we're sitting on the couch or we're laying in bed. Donnie's in the middle. And so tacked him in, made sure everything looked good, and then I used red line tape to adhere everything together so that nothing would show, but nothing will fall apart. Okay? And then I punched the holes. Now, I had to make sure that the hole didn't hit my stitching, and I accidentally went probably over a little bit more than I should have, but it works because there's enough room in the binding there for that extra. Okay? Then what I did is I, decorated the front with a Grinch tag and a piece from the ephemera, which I had stapled the numbers on before I stuck it down. And then I used some tags from my stash to have things for inside the stockings. So Mr. Donnie's got cut down a lot because his stocking is so little. So on the front, what I did is for each one, I put a picture of us. And so, those reindeer headband, he will wear things, not for tons of time, but he will wear things. So I got a cute picture of him wearing the reindeer. And then on the back, I put his name and I put how old he was. Okay. Not a lot of room on his. That's okay. And then what I did for ours is I used a little scrap of the marketing piece, and you'll see that there's a bit of a notch there. When I was punching this hole, I accidentally left the tag in and it punched. It'll sit there, but I can also sit it away from the hole. I I didn't have another tag, and I wasn't gonna try and replicate it. I just left it as is. It's gonna be tucked away anyway. So there's a picture of us. So this is me at a crop, and I think I reused it from another page. And then here's Tom, and it's actually from Christmas, because there's the toque that I gave him in his stocking. But on the back, I put our names, our ages, and things that we are loving. So like scrapbooking, British shows, you know, getting back into cross-stitching, you know, video games, looking for VHS tapes, movies, and TV shows. So it's just kind of a quick little snapshot. I've seen this done a lot of ways for family. You know, you could do an interview with your family, like what is your favorite TV show, what's your favorite food, all that good stuff, and put it in your album. But I thought that was just a nice little quick snapshot. I loved the idea of the stocking. This tells a story in itself because of his little one there. It was just fun to do. Time consuming though. Okay. And then on the back, I didn't want to put a photo or anything. The 23rd, I knew I was going to be at a day crop, and I knew it was Festivus. I always do something Festivus. 23rd was also my grandma's birthday. So I wasn't sure what I wanted to do there, but I also had this great cutout. It's a laser cut from Color Cast Designs, which is a Colorado company. And I had this die cut from one of the vendors at Scrap Expo. And so I thought his face looked super cute with, you know, maybe Christmas means a little bit more. So I used a stencil, and I used some bee sting astro paste from Simon Hurley, and I put it on there, and hopefully you can see the glitter. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. And he has it in different colors. It's amazing. So put that on there, did all of that, let it sit, let it dry, and then added those on. Again, a nice kind of place for your face, not your face, your eye to rest, before we kind of get into, like, that was the, you know, getting up to the Christmas days, and now we're kind of 23rd, 24th, 25th is Christmas, right? Again, there's a little Grinch there, left space for journaling. Use the together card. Wasn't sure if I was going to do something about grandma, something about, you know, Tom and I with Festivus. It ended up being a day crop to go to the store. So took a quick snapshot as I was working at the store. Added one of the little label holders, put the Festivus in there. And then I wore Grinch stuff to the crop. So I didn't wear both outfits, of course, but I thought, I'll just put them both together on one photo, made a little cluster here, and then indicated that I had my Grinch outfits for this year. Christmas Eve, we always do certain things. We have a charcuterie board, we go see lights, we just hang out, okay? So I knew that. Again, some mixed media with stencils, had this great Grinch sticker, fit perfectly on this card. I have so many of these cards for whatever reason. And then a picture of the lights. Used a flip out here again, because I had a few extra photos and I knew I would. Made this card here to hold the number 24. Circles with the circles to keep it all together. You know, Christmas Eve sticker I used up. Some of these other stickers of they'd sing, 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 sing. And then you flip it open, and you know, we took Donnie to the park that day, had a nice walk with him. We went to Garden of the Gods, so I put some pictures there. As I was pulling this together, we were talking about the acetates in the crop, and I'm like, ooh, I could put an acetate here. So I added a couple of those, and then I talked about charcuterie. I didn't include a picture of the charcuterie, but I did take a picture of Donnie staring at us, wanting the cheese from the charcuterie, which is in the story over here. But there he is, glaring at us because we're not giving him cheese. I also had this little sticker of the Grinch in his chair with Max beside it, which I thought was a great addition here, which is, you know, Max in the chair being a Grinch. So I thought that was kind of cute. And then Christmas Day. So here's the other card. Usually I make sure that the number is visible. It's over here. But that's okay, because, you know, the stockings are there. Donnie's sniffing them. I always take a picture of the stockings. So I thought this was cute because he could smell his treats. Santa had come and he was checking them out. Done this ahead of time. I deliberately picked protectors that I know I'm going to have room for photos. I don't take a ton of photos because I want to be in the moment, but I know I'm going to take a long one of stockings. I know I'm going to take a big one of Tom opening his gifts. So I knew that on the back of this card, it would be a picture of Tom. I added this in after because there was a dead zone here. But I did want to include the Grinch tag here, naughty or nice. And so I thought that would be super cute. Again, made sure that I left some space when I was taking the photo for that tag. Donnie got us gifts. We had actually agreed not to give gifts. But Donnie got Tom this Fallout figure that he really liked. And then Donnie got me a Shakespeare statue that will go in my cabinet down here in my office. And then he's chewing his little rawhide bone there. I had done this ahead of time, just added some layering, added in a tag for journaling. There's a sticker tying in the Grinch there as well. And then this is probably one of the funnest pages I did this year. So I had the idea to, and I always do a documentation of the movies. But what I wanted to do was do little flip-flops on a 12 block 2x2 square. And so every year I watch Christmas programs and shows and movies and shorts, and it got to be to like 87 a year. And in 2023, it felt overwhelming. And I was also watching things like, I'm thinking of you, Family Circus Christmas, which irritates the crap out of me. And then I'm like, why am I watching this when it doesn't bring me joy, right? Like, I feel compelled to check things off on my spreadsheet because it's on the spreadsheet. And I literally was tracking them on the spreadsheet and where I could watch them and blah, blah, blah. So what I did is I went through them at the end of the season in January 2024 and said, what are 25 that I absolutely love? And I am going to watch one per day in December, and that's it. Okay, so that's a lot of culling from 87 or 89 to 25. And I made a list of those, and through the month, I did that. Now, some days I had more time than others, and so I would watch a movie. Other days, like Christmas Eve, I know we're going to do a whole bunch of stuff. I always watch Mr. Bean's Christmas that day. It's short. It's like 23 minutes. Christmas Day, I always watch Love Actually. And I will watch that movie a million times through the year, but I always watch it on Christmas. I absolutely adore that movie. So that's what the 26 is. And the reason for this is it gave me a chance to use some rub-ons, but use this movie spool for the day. I had a card and I used some rub-ons, and then I put, feeling Grinchy, did my journaling, and realized that the rub-ons do not take some ink. And so it's smeared, and that's why you have this black haze, which is gross, but I don't have another one of these cards, and the rub-ons won't come off because they're really good quality and they don't come off. So what I did is I kind of took some ink and smeared it over here, found a Sharpie, finished up my journaling so it's there. It is what it is. So there's this circular haze around him, much like this, much like these circles. I can try and convince myself that that was good enough. Okay. So over here, I used each of the days is a 4x2 piece of paper, scored and folded in half. Okay, so this side you see all of the trees right way up. On the back, of course, the trees are upside down. That doesn't matter. We're going to get to that in a minute. Then what I did is I used some of these circle chipboard and adhered them onto each of the flaps. Okay, now each day then I printed out the little photos for 24 of the movies and shorts on my list. Okay. So like ones like Garfield's Christmas, Christmas Vacation, John Denver and the Muppets, While You Were Sleeping, the Santa Clauses. So there's three of them, 1, 2, and 3. Christmas with the Cranks. I love that. It just cracks me up. There's my 1, 2, 3 Grinches. Die Hard is a Christmas movie. You can fight me if you want. It is a Christmas movie. It is set at Christmas. Die Hard 1 is here. Die Hard 2 is not. But I usually watch Die Hard 1 and 2 together. It's the Die Hard day. Okay? There's Mr. Bean. There's Festivus. I watch that on the 23rd every single year. And I know that. So I know that that's a day that I can do a ton of other stuff because I don't have to spend time watching something because the Festivus clips, I think, are like 12 minutes altogether. Muppet Family Christmas. Bridget Jones, Miracle on 34th, The Holiday, Elf, The Nutcracker, The Ballet, The Nutcracker, A Christmas Carol. I saw it live action earlier in the month, but I also watched an old style one as well. And then one of my absolute favorites is Muppet Christmas Carol, because Michael Caine acts in that movie like he is up for an Oscar, even though he is surrounded by Muppets. It is absolutely delightful. So I watch that every year. So those are the 24 and 25 here. Now I put Love Actually over here because I watched on the 25th, but also it is my all-time favorite. Like I love a lot of Christmas movies, but if I had to just pick one movie to watch for the rest of my life, it would be Love Actually. Okay, I love it. If you love it too, let's chat. And so this is a cute idea. I used it here. If you watched the video for my 2012 to 2013, I did the same idea and punched circles and put stickers that were Disney related. Again, wanted to have a lot of photos, and so did the flippy flaps on that album. That album I did after I did the foundation of this, because initially that year was a little mini album and it was falling apart, and so I did it in an actual binder. So I replicated this idea into that one with a Disney theme. Now again, the trees are the right way up. They're going to be upside down on the other side, but that's okay because I covered them up with photos. And so Color Cast Designs years ago, probably I've had this for 10 years. It was currently in acrylic, and then little wood strips of ing words like gifting, eating, shopping, loving, crafting, ramping, baking, decorating. So what I did was, there were 10 of these. I wrote them out on a list, and as I was going through the month or looking back on the month, I found something that would fit that ing word. Okay. And most of them were photos. Some of them were actually, that's the actual sticker from my chocolate orange that was in my stocking from a few days before. Then what I did is I had stapled the 27 to the back of this one. Again, the back of the staple was going to be covered by a picture from the movie. I put a sticker from the Grinch, and on the outside of the protector, I adhered the word currently. Okay, I don't usually do things on the outside because I'm worried about them catching and falling off. All of these are under the plastic. They're actually stuck to the photo. But this one is on top because it went across 2 different squares. Okay, so currently on the 27th, this is a smattering from across the entire month. Does it matter? No. You could do it currently. You could do around here. You could do around the house. You could do any ing word that you want. Okay. The 28th and the 29th, after Christmas, as you're getting towards New Year's, there's not a lot happening. This is a good type of page for that. It's also a good time to put in some photos that maybe don't fit in with prepping and getting ready for Christmas. And so that's what the 28th and 29th are. So I cut out pattern paper here, did a mat. And the reason I did this page is because of these 3 tags. So this is from Vicky Boom. And I loved how big it was. I loved that it would fit across the entire page. I put some twine, I put an acetate and my 28 and a circle, tiny touch, put it in there so it would hold, so that vellum, it doesn't have adhesive behind it, but it's also holding the acetate behind as well. I do have adhesive behind this circle, and then I put a Grinch face. And then as I was going through, I decided that, I actually dreamt about this page. I'm like, I have to take a picture of my mason cash bowls. So I love Great British Bake Off, love it. And they use mason cash bowls. They are a UK company that makes these bowls. Everywhere I looked, they were very, very expensive because, of course, they have to be imported. However, World Market had a coupon, and I think it was like Labor Day or something, and I got 25% off. And so I decided to splurge, pull the trigger, and get these bowls. And so, I love the red. And so I saved them for Christmas and took a picture of them on the counter with the Christmas tree in the background, printed it 5x7. I actually had to cut quite a bit off the top to get it positioned right. There's a little bit of overlap, but that's okay. And that's what my story is. I added the Santa Claus there because every year I buy myself something that I don't necessarily need, but I really love. And usually I use, my Christmas bonus money to do that so that I don't feel that I'm taking away from anything else in life. But this was my gift from Santa Claus. I always say it's from Santa Claus because I'm not buying myself something. It's Santa who's giving it to me, right? And so that kind of drove this page. Now, because it was a big photo page, I also do a picture of Pikes Peak every year. And so that's what this page, right from the beginning, I knew what I was going to do. Right from the embellishments to the Tim Holtz dies to the laser cuts, I knew that this was going to be a Pikes Peak picture. And actually, this is coming down Montebello from the store. Beautiful vista. Set up the camera, set it to do multiple snaps, drive slowly down there as long as there's nobody around you getting mad, and you can get some great shots of Pikes Peak. And then I zoom in or out or however much as I need to, depending on the photo that I want. Now, I also had a little Colorado embellishment there, and there's the Grinch and the trees. I didn't want to do journaling here. I could have done it on the base of the mountains here, but I didn't want to. The album had another little tag. So here's all my journaling for this. Merry Memories ties in nice with the red numbers. And then on the back, it said Merry and Bright. I thought it was super cute to put this little Grinch with the candy cane that also looks like a thermometer because we had been sick, pretty much the entire month. Felt better, then felt worse again, and then was feeling better at Christmas time. The 30th, I had these great Hobby Lobby stickers, and they were Grinch colored. This is an Ellie Studio die. Backed it with paper, put the mugs in there. This actually said I'm a Grinch before coffee. I don't drink coffee, so I just cut it off and tucked it behind the Grinch there. There's the 30th. I had this patch that I actually got in the Christmas sales after Christmas, but I had purchased this Grinch mug way in advance because I knew it was going to be the year of the Grinch. Kept the tag that was on it that said Dr. Seuss so I could have it as my journaling or as part of my ephemera. And so, I'm a Grinch. Every family has one. Now, if you could see the photo, you're probably wondering, was I in an accident? Did I get beaten? No, I have been dealing with some retinal issues, and my treatment is to have injections in my eye. And so, both eyes. But, the injections are painful, and they are exhausting, and it is a very emotional and traumatic thing to face potential blindness. However, the treatments are working great. Unfortunately, the side effect sometimes is bruising, and so that's what you're seeing, that redness in my eye. And so that's in the flip up journaling. So, the treatments are rough, and, I was feeling a little grinchy, because I wasn't feeling good from the cold, but now You know, now I had massive bruising and pain from the injections. So that's what the journaling is. And then again, in sales on Amazon, I actually got this wallet for like $7 in the summer. And so I knew it was going to be the year of the Grinch. I grabbed it, took a photo of it, was able to incorporate it here. You know, as much as sometimes things in the season make you grinchy, other things just bring you a lot of joy. So I really enjoyed having that wallet. I will probably use it every year, or, you know, rotate it out with another Christmas wallet I have. But it was just, you know, grinchy things of me. And then to finish off the album, I do not go into January anymore as of 2024. I talk about that in my 2023 December Daily album, you know, with Ukraine moving Ukrainian Christmas from the Julian calendar, which is aligned with Russia, to December. Some Ukrainians do that. I don't go into January anymore. So if you want to know more about that, I have that in my other video. But the 31st was us going up to Fort Collins to the Comedy Fort. Absolutely love that place. It's fantastic. Chris Higgins is originally from Boulder. He's a super funny comic. We actually went and saw him in 2023. We were back there in 2024. Fortunately, won't be there this year, so I'm not sure what we're going to do this year for New Year's Eve, but, and I know this because he posted where he's going to be this year. We'll figure something out, but we were able to take a picture of him. We've gone to almost every show he's had here, and so, like, he knows us, and, yeah, he's just a really great guy. So had a group shot there, us together sitting, used another little heart for a little date night, and then this was another flip. So I kind of did a double flip here, which is fun to do, so that I could do journaling, and then we also stopped at Buc-ee's. If you've been to a crop, you've probably heard me talk about Buc-ee's. I love Buc-ee's. So had to make sure I get a picture of Buc-ee's in there as we stop there on the way home. And that is my album. Again, I used one paper collection and some other kind of corresponding bits and bobs here and there. I absolutely really enjoyed the challenge of using one line of paper and everything in that line, and I used up a lot of that line. I bought more of it because I love the papers, and especially like the woods and plaids and things like that that are generic. But it was a really good challenge to use that, but also incorporate the Grinch everywhere. I would say that I'm going to do it again with those challenges. I have lots of Santa stuff and I have lots of Nutcracker stuff, so I'm kind of determining when I want to do that. It has to feel right, right? And so this year I am absolutely elated with Vicki Boutin's Christmas line with 49 and Market. And so my album this year will be with her papers. I'm thinking, at least from what I've seen. I'm really excited about that. You know, something different and some different color schemes too. Not just the red and green. There's some, you know, like sea foam or some blue tones in there too. I've yet to see it in my hands. And so at the time of this recording, actually tonight is the Facebook that I think Kathy will be showing what she brought in. And so once I have it in my hands, I will know. Or if I want to do the Simple Stories Air Bundle that is this year. I did use that album a couple years ago for December Daily. And so not sure if I want to do that or not, but I'm thinking Vicki Boutin might have what I want. And then I'll do some recording of, you know, prepping for December Daily 2025 and what that looks like, and some planning videos. And so that you'll have some tools to kind of plan your album as well. But going through the albums is always nice. I always go through all of my December Daily albums of, you know, things that I really enjoyed, things that I maybe enjoyed a little bit but probably wouldn't do again. You know, things that I absolutely will do again. Like, I loved these little flippies. I loved them. It was fun to do, and I love the interactive aspect of it. I would maybe do it for a different theme. Maybe a holiday party. You could flip it up and have a picture and some journaling, or, a feminine side. I don't know. But that's something I would explore. Also love the shakers. So hopefully this gives you some ideas. It gave me a bunch of ideas, and we'll see you in the next video.